The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 60. Sweet Potatoes. In times of hardship, a well-led rebellion was highly enticing. Whether it was to survive or simply to vent their anger, many people were easily convinced to join the uprising. The rebels first suppressed the local officers and took over the county governor's office. They then went on to rob the rich and distributed food and gold amongst the poor. As they only robbed from people with a bad reputation and did not kill indiscriminately, many more common people supported their cause wholeheartedly. At the peak of their influence, the people had called them the Common Men's Army. When Suzhou's general, Shen Tu-su, received the news, he immediately deployed troops to contain the rebellion. However, many of his soldiers had relatives and family members who had joined the uprising. Furthermore, the rebel army had outnumbered his troops. Shen Tu-su had no choice but to turn to Yejing for help. Emperor Qing was naturally enraged upon hearing the news. Prior to this event, the emperor was in high spirits. The newly inducted Taoist master prophesied that he would face adversity this year. To resolve this, firstly, he would need someone close to him to ward off this misfortune, and secondly, to build a 99-story pagoda to please the heavens. After that, he would be able to lead a long and prosperous life like that of the immortals. Now that Emperor Qing had fully trusted this Taoist master, he certainly would not risk disobeying him. He enforced the construction of the pagoda under the excuse of praying for Dai's prosperity, but in fact, it was all for his own well-being. Now that a rebellion had arisen, an event which Emperor Qing believed to be the foretold misfortune, his faith in the Taoist master had only solidified. Although he had already followed his instructions to build the pagoda, Emperor Qing was still not pacified. He hurriedly called for the Taoist master to divine for him on who would help him ward off this disaster. The Taoist master, who went by the name of Master Liao, had lived past the age of 70, a longevity that earned him the respect of many. Although his hair and beard were all white, there was no weakness in his steps. He exuded divinity when walking into the room. When Master Liao saw Emperor Qing, he cupped his hands and bowed. Before the emperor could speak, Master Liao started, "Your Majesty has nothing to worry about. I have counted the 8 characters of the 3 princes. The 3rd prince is protected by a powerful providence, and whose 8 characters best complement your Majesty. He is the most suitable to help you avert this disaster." Emperor Qing was finally appeased, but after a while, he hesitated and asked, "Will my son face any harm?" Master Liao shook his head and said, "Your Majesty can rest assured. The 3rd prince has the spirit of a dragon. Although his life force will be slightly damaged, it's nothing irreparable. I've heard that he has always been close to your Majesty. I believe he's willing to sacrifice even more for your sake." Emperor Qing readily agreed, but some of Master Liao's words caught his attention. "What do you mean by having the spirit of a dragon?" Seeing that he had taken the bait, Master Liao smiled and only answered, "Such was the ways of the heavens, I cannot divulge further." The words effectively stuck with Emperor Qing. He impatiently summoned the 3rd prince. Moments later, the 3rd prince arrived. He looked at the emperor with admiration and greeted, "Imperial Father, I've come to see you." Emperor Qing took a closer look at the 3rd prince. Of his 3 sons, the 3rd prince resembled him the most. And since Shu Guifei had been his favorite concubine all these years, he had also come to dote on the 3rd prince the most. When the boy was young, he would often cause mischief and laugh childishly at the resulting troubles, but in recent years, he seemed to have matured into a fine prince. Master Liao stepped forward and explained to the 3rd prince the current ordeal faced by the emperor. He also emphasized that the 3rd prince would be losing some of his life force in the process. After hearing Master Liao's explanation, the 3rd prince bowed and said confidently, "I'm willing to shoulder any burden on behalf of Imperial Father. My good son." Emperor Qing personally went over to him and said with a smile, "Although you're doing it out of filial piety, you should still be rewarded. Is there anything that you wanted?" It's an honor to be able to share some of Imperial Father's worries. This son dare not ask for anything in return. The more he refused, the more Emperor Qing insisted on rewarding him. After the third prince pretended to refuse a few more times, he eventually hesitated and said, "This prince do have a small wish." Emperor Qing smiled and said, "Speak." This prince always admired second brother's military prowess. Now that there is civil unrest in Suzhou, this prince would like an army of my own to help Imperial Father squash this rebellion. Emperor Qing was hesitant. These rebels are large in number, it's not going to be a trifling fight. The third prince raised his chin and boasted, "I've already come up with a way to deal with it." Oh! Emperor Qing was quite pleased. "Tell me what you plan to do." The third prince began to elaborate. "These rebels are, after all, just a large group of uneducated peasants. There's simply no way they can overcome the soldiers of our Deya Empire." Seeing that Emperor Qing was happy with his flattery, the third prince continued, "But if a war breaks out, we will bleed money. Therefore, I've come up with a plan that will not shed a single drop of our soldiers' blood. Aren't those rebels camped along the Sishui River? I have checked the area map and they are nicely situated downstream while the upper reaches of the river lie in Yuzhou. We could send someone to talk amnesty with them to lower their vigilance while we add poison to the upriver water. Since these people have camped along the river, this must be their main water source. After they have taken the poison, we'll take this opportunity to eradicate them, as easy as a knife cutting through butter." The third prince was only 15 this year. His lack of empathy when he spoke about killing tens of thousands of people even caused Master Liao to shudder. On the other hand, Emperor Qing patted his shoulder in agreement. He laughed and said, "All is fair in war. This is indeed a very good idea. I will let you handle this." The third prince bowed and assured his father, "I will not let you down." This secret discussion was only known to the three people present. The next day, Emperor Qing demanded that the construction of the pagoda to speed up and must be completed before the winter, while the third prince was sent to Suzhou to conciliate with the rebels. Generals Xu Linting of Yuzhou and Shen Tusu of Suzhou were placed under his command. The officials of the Crown Prince's faction were taken aback while those from the third prince's party praised the emperor for his wisdom. Only a few people like Lian Ming and Shen Tubei felt ominous about Emperor Qing's decision. It was a few days later that this news reached Yanzhou. After his last conversation with Qi Wei had gone back and gathered all the experienced farmers to discuss of a way to increase Yanzhou's agricultural output. These old farmers had been working the fields for many years and had better knowledge than anyone else. After some substantial discussion, they really did come up with something. One of these farmers had a son who once bought a cartful of something called sweet potatoes from the Yuezhi Empire. This crop grew in abundance in the Yuezhi Empire and was incredibly cheap. It was big in size and could easily fill the stomach. However, his son was not able to make any money from it and hence, brought it back to Yanzhou with him. Previously, during the war when they had donated all their food to the army, it was these sweet potatoes that had kept them fed. Qi Wei was very intrigued and asked the old farmer to bring his son so they could discuss the sweet potatoes. When Xiao Zhiga got wind of the news, he brought in Chang Qing along to have a look. Because the old farmer's family was poor, his son had been trading goods from all over the place to earn as much as possible. When he heard from a traveling companion that the Yuezhi Empire could provide them with profitable products to sell, he was immediately tempted to make the trip. He and some friends had then sneaked across the border of Suzhou to the Yuezhi territories. But once he got there, he found that it was not easy at all to trade there. The group had stayed for several days but hadn't managed to earn much. The trip back and forth had not been cheap. He did not want to go home empty-handed and, since the price of these sweet potatoes had been so cheap, he had decided to bring a cart back. The farmer's son said that the sweet potatoes were everywhere in Yuezhi. He also heard that it was very easy to cultivate and the vegetable could be eaten raw or cooked. He even brought out 2 sweet potatoes to let them try. Qi Wei and the others took a bite of the sweet potato and found that it had the texture of arrowroot and tasted like chestnut. And Changqing also tasted a small piece. He took the sweet potato and studied it. I once read about this vegetable in a traveling journal on the Luzon Strait. The skin is clay red and the flesh is starchy. It is easy to cultivate and has high yield even if grown on barren soil. In his previous life, Changqing was cooped up in the Wang Manor most of the time. His biggest hobby was jade carving and reading. Back then, he had read countless literature on traveling and miscellaneous subjects. He never thought that one day he would be able to hold in his hand an item which he had only used his imagination to grasp. Xiao's Higa did not doubt his words, easy to cultivate even on barren soil. Do you think it can be cultivated in Yanzhou? The lieutenants looked at one another with their eyes lighting up. Afterwards, Xiao's Higa exchanged provisions for the remainder of the sweet potatoes that the old farmer still had. And Changqing recalled all that he learned from the book and together with the information from the old farmer's son, drafted a method for cultivating the sweet potatoes. By now, the potato eyes had begun to germinate. And Changqing was eager to see them sprout and went to the fields daily with Xiao's Higa to inspect. Due to the warm weather and uncluttered land, the little buds had been growing rapidly in just a few days. According to the journal, the sweet potatoes were best grown in April. Since they were a month late, they could only apply more fertilizer and hope for the best. If we can successfully cultivate this plant, our people will not have to worry about food shortage in the future. It can even cover the military rations, and Changqing said excitedly. Xiao's Higa too couldn't hide his glee looking at the previously empty fields. The land in Yanzhou had never been able to yield much crops. If they could really cultivate this sweet potato, then he can be confident about Yanzhou's future. That's right. This is a blessing. If possible, not only the people of Yanzhou but the rest of Deya will never have to face hunger again. And Changqing turned to look at Xiao's Higa's face filled with aspirations. In spite of the many awful names that the people had been giving him, Xiao's Higa had always cared for their well-being. I'll go through the texts again when we get back. There may still be more useful information, and Changqing said enthusiastically. He used to read those books to pass time, but after this experience, he realized these were essential knowledge that could benefit the livelihood of many. Xiao's Higa agreed, I'll have to trouble know then. And Changqing smiled and pulled Xiao's Higa to check on the rest of the plantation. By the time they had finished with the inspection, there was a report that a letter had arrived from Yejing. The pair went straight to the barracks where Xiao's Higa went to receive the letter. Since Xiao's Higa did not keep any information from him, naturally Changqing was allowed to see the contents. When he read the report about the third prince leading troops to Sishui River to squash the rebellion, something tugged at the back of his mind, but he failed to put a finger on it. Xiao's Higa was also quite upset with the news. Although he had expected that his imperial father would deploy troops to suppress this rebellion, he did not think that he would do so without hesitation. Be that as it may, those rebels were also of Deya's birth who were pushed to the edge. This was their only path to survive. If the court was willing to negotiate a truce, there was no need for the army to be involved. Emperor Qing's move will dye the Sishui River with blood. Xiao's Higa sighed as he burned the letter. Seeing that Changqing seemed absent-minded, Xiao's Higa thought that he was concerned that war would break out and tried to comfort him. There's no use worrying now. We should instead focus on Yanzhou's issues. And Changqing's train of thought was disrupted and could only nod in agreement. When evening came, the two returned to the manor. After having dinner, Changqing went to the bathroom to wash up. Xiao's Higa stood outside the room and beseeched, "Do I have to sleep in the study again tonight?" Because Xiao's Higa had gone overboard with his second time with Changqing, he was driven off to sleep in the study since the previous night. The northern warlord shamelessly took off his overcoat and sat boldly on the bed. Changqing finished bathing and climbed past Xiao's Higa, straight to bed with his back facing Xiao's Higa. Although he did not say anything, it was clear that Changqing showed no intention to chase him out. Xiao Zhiga was relieved. He pulled the blanket over them both and reached out to hug Changqing. Having reconciled, the pair drifted into a good night's sleep. End chapter. The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 61. The Sishui Chaos. It is said that whatever's in your thoughts during the day will come back to you in your dreams. That night, Changqing dreamt about his last life. There were many things that he had forgotten, and the dream this time was like a reminder. He could clearly tell that he was dreaming. In the dream, Xiao Zhiga was still in Yanzhou and he was left alone in the Wang Manor. He was reading in the study when he heard the servants chatting idly outside. Back then, the servants were careless and inattentive towards him, but Changqing did not care. He continued to read until soft sobs were heard some distance away. He followed the sound and found that it was a young maid crying, covering her face when she spoke, so many have died. My hometown is near Sishui River. No one dares to deliver my letter. I don't know if my family is still alive. Two other maids said nervously, do you want to die? Steward Wang specifically told us not to talk about this. The crying maid became furious. There are thousands of people living in the Sishui area. Not everybody has joined the rebellion, but the third prince has poisoned them indiscriminately. And now we can't even talk about it? Stop talking. Another maid covered her mouth and looked around with vigilance. His Majesty has declared that everyone in the Sishui area joined the common man's army and they all deserve their deaths. If your family is really in the Sishui area, we can only mourn for them in secret. The young maid could only cry in despair. Changqing knew he was in a dream and tried to wake up, but instead, he was warped to somewhere else. He was standing inconspicuously in a bookstore picking out some reading materials. Nearby were some scholars speaking in whispers. They said that the third prince was assassinated by the rebels. Do you think it's true? Some people said it was actually the northern warlord who did it. Another scholar looked around and said in a low voice, it's got nothing to do with the northern warlord. The way I see it, it's retribution. How so? The scholar gave a disgusted look and elaborated, do you remember the uprising 2 years ago? My family lived not too far from the Sishui area. To wipe out the rebellions, the third prince poured poison into the upstream of the Sishui River. The rebellion army drank from the river water and fell seriously ill. The third prince took advantage of this and massacred everyone in the Sishui area. One scholar said, this method was absolutely cold-hearted. Someone else said, all is fair in war. It's excusable given the circumstance. Excusable. The scholar from before sneered, you only say that because you don't know the other half of the story. The Sishui River doesn't end in Suzhou, it branches out and extends across the southern provinces. The third prince pouring poison into the river not only killed the rebels but also polluted it along with the soil. The crops harvested were infected with poison, causing many people living along the lower reaches of the Sishui River to fall fatally ill. He continued with indignation in his voice, later when the court found out about this, instead of providing aid, the higher-ups decreed that these people had supported the rebellion. Troops were sent to round them up for beatings guised as interrogations. The villagers were either killed by the poison or beaten to death by the soldiers. In half a month, the Sishui River banks were lined with corpses. If my family hadn't managed to escape, we would have been killed as well. A scholar listening to him said with doubts, did you make this up? How come we've never heard about this? These were orders from above. Anyone who dared to speak of it was beheaded. Never mind if you don't believe me, but the third prince dying at the hands of the rebels is his retribution. Sishui. The rebellion army. Changqing woke violently from his dream. He sat up with a forehead drenched with sweat. He finally remembered. No wonder the word Sishui sounded so familiar. It was referring to the Sishui rebellion. What's wrong? A nightmare. Xiao Zhiga was woken up by the sounds. He saw En Changqing dripping with sweat and hurriedly took a handkerchief to wipe his forehead. En Changqing was still partially trapped in the dream. His eyes were unfocused and seemed as though he was in a trance. Xiao Zhiga got up and opened the window to bring in some fresh air when he heard En Changqing speak, "I had another dream. Something big will happen in the Sishui area." Xiao Zhiga saw the look in his eyes and knew it was not something trivial. He poured him a cup of water and stroked his back. "Calm down, speak slowly." En Changqing took a sip of water. He tried to calm the surging emotions in his heart before he spoke. "I dreamt that to wipe out the rebellions, the third prince poisoned the upper stream of the Sishui river. Those affected were not just the rebels but also the commoners living further downstream." En Changqing had now fully recalled this event. After hearing the murmurs in the Wang manor, he had done more digging and could more or less figure out the cause and effect. After the third prince poisoned the river, the rebels who drank from the river water immediately fell sick. He then took this opportunity to decimate the rebellion of nearly 10,000 men, an effortless battle. When he returned to Yejing, Emperor Anqing lavished him with gifts and praises. But the third prince was only able to bask in the limelight for a short time because not long after, local officials reported that due to his actions, the people living south of the Sishui River were falling ill one after another, the crops were dying and the river was filled with dead fish. If this news had come out right after the emperor had just showered the third prince with gifts and praises, it would have enraged the public and ruined Emperor Anqing's reputation. And so, he had ordered for the news to be suppressed and declared those afflicted to be rebels and beat them into silence. Anyone who dared to mention this was to be killed without hesitation. Because of this, the rebellions that came after were all the more difficult to deal with. Even after Xiao Zhiga had ascended the throne and sent out troops to negotiate for peace, the insurgents who had lost all faith in the court refused to back down. Xiao Zhiga had no choice but to engage in battle with them to stabilize the country. In the past, En Changqing did not understand, but now he was fully aware that no sins would go unpunished and no secrets could stay hidden forever, especially when so many had died. The third prince's death was most likely the work of someone seeking revenge. En Changqing was shaking with his fists clenched. So many lives, this shouldn't be allowed to happen like this. Xiao Zhiga grabbed his hand and comforted, "Don't worry, I'll think of something." He knew that his imperial father treated the people as insects and his younger brother was never an innocent child, but to think that they would do such a thing. That said, logically speaking, it was nothing strange that they could resort to such methods. His younger brother wanted to compete for the throne, but to do that, he needed to make a meritorious service. At the same time, his father had always been self-centered and the deaths of commoners were just a number to him. It would have been fine had he not known, but now that he did, he could not turn a blind eye. Regardless, even if they were rebels, they were still the people of Dayet. Xiao Zhiga's eyes darkened as he pulled the disturbed En Changqing into his arms and coaxed him back to sleep. After making sure that he was sleeping soundly, Xiao Zhiga got out of bed quietly and rode straight to the barracks. It had been several days since the news had reached Yejing. If his calculation was right, the third prince would arrive at Sishui soon. He had to hurry if he wanted to save these people. He personally wrote 2 letters, one to Shen Tu-su and the other to the leader of the Common Men's Army. The Common Men's Army, which had become a formidable force, was led by a skillful butcher who could slay a tiger with his butcher knife. The second in command was his brother, an upstanding scholar. The 2 brothers, one contributed strength and the other knowledge, were the binding forces that held the rebels together. After sealing the letter, Xiao Zhiga was about to send it to the messenger but felt unsure. He called for Xie Ling to discuss and finally decided to have him deliver the letter to enforce its credibility. Shen Tu-su tended to be indecisive in making his judgment and his ability was inferior to his father's. The upside was that he had followed all his father's teachings and treated the soldiers and people with kindness. It'd be a great advantage if they could get him on their side. Xiao Zhiga placed his hands behind his back and faced skywards. To this point, he had done what he could. The rest was up to the heavens' will. Asterisk. Xie Ling traveled non-stop to Suzhou and requested a meeting with Shen Tu-su. Shen Tu-su was quite surprised to see him. Suzhou lies right next to Yanzhou and had been fighting side by side against the Baidi people. Since they shared a common enemy, the two states had a fairly good relationship with each other. Shen Tu-su went out to personally receive Xie Ling. Due to the urgency of the matter, Xie Ling went straight to the point. After carefully picking his words, he relayed to Shen Tu-su all that Xiao Zhiga had instructed him to. Shen Tu-su's expression became worse as he listened. This. Do you have any evidence? Poisoning the water has been despised since ancient times. Why would the third prince resort to such a method? Poisoning the water supply could destroy the enemy soldiers, but at the same time, it was also harmful for the common people living nearby. Any general with a conscience would not succumb to such means. There is no evidence. But even if it isn't true, this will bring no harm to your army or the people. Xie Ling spoke with sincerity. Wang Ye wanted to bring this to your attention because he couldn't bear to see the innocent people of Suzhou suffer. If the third prince had indeed decided to use this method, all General Su had to do was to dissuade him based on the rumor that the third prince was planning to poison the Sishui river. This will allow your people to avoid a big disaster. On the contrary, if the third prince succeeded in poisoning the river, many innocent lives would be lost. I hear that a large number of your soldiers have families living along the Sishui river. I'm afraid at that time, your troops will lose their morale. Xie Ling did not have to say more. Shen Tu-su had already understood the situation. He paced back and forth while contemplating. After a long while, he said, I'll believe you for the time being. But where does this rumor come from? And what about the rebels? How should we deal with them? Wang Ye will make arrangements for this rumor to spread. As for the rebels, they are after all Dayes citizens. If it weren't for the court squeezing their blood dry, they would not have resorted to this. If the general can have a sincere talk with them, there is always a chance for a peaceful resolution. Shen Tu-su sighed heavily and nodded. How did it come to this? Seeing that he had succeeded in convincing Shen Tu-su, Xie Ling quickly set off to the Sishui area where a more challenging task awaited. End chapter. The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 62. The Hypocritical Prince. Xie Ling left Suzhou's General's Manor and traveled for half a day before arriving at Kanyang County. Kanyang County was now occupied by the common man's army. Because it was surrounded by mountains and rivers, there were only 3 traversable paths, all of which were heavily guarded by the people who had joined the rebellion. Members of the rebel groups identified themselves using a piece of blue cloth tied around their waist. Most of them either carried a hoe or axe as weapons. Although they all look intimidating, to someone like Xie Ling who had been fighting the Baidi army for many years, they looked rather foolhardy. The might of this common man's army solely depended on numbers. But the larger the army, the more weapons and armor they would need. It was impossible to fight all of Dayes troops with the sole mentality of not fearing death. That was simply a mantis trying to stop a chariot. No wonder Xiao Zhiga had sent him here. Not to mention the third prince, if Shen Tu-su hadn't been merciful towards them, the Suzhou army could easily disassemble this gathering. Xie Ling stopped his horse at a junction towards the main road. He scanned the area and not long after, was approached by a watchman holding 2 axes. Who are you? You can't stay here. Hurry up and leave. Xie Ling was relieved to see that although the watchman bore a menacing attitude, he had no intention of attacking innocent people. He dismounted and introduced himself. I am Xie Ling, I've come to take refuge. Please take me to meet the leader. The man was suspicious at first, but seeing that he was alone, decided to let him in after some deliberation. He notified his colleague and motioned to Xie Ling, wait here. I'll go and consult our leader. The two brothers who led the rebellion had been motherless from a young age. When they got older, their father fell ill and needed medication to stay alive. To earn money, the elder brother had learned butchery to support the family while the more intelligent younger brother had studied from the village teacher. Initially, the family was looking forward to sending the younger brother off for the imperial exams when the snowstorm hit. It took a lot from them to pull through the disaster, but unfortunately shortly right after, the county magistrate came and demanded payment. On top of that, each family was forced to send one person to work on the construction of the pagoda. Within their family, only the elder brother was fit for such strenuous labor, but he was also the breadwinner of the family, and without him, their livelihood would be lost. With no other choice, their sickly father had begged the officials to let his eldest son stay in exchange for money. But the officials had been merciless. They had kicked him aside and caused him to hit his head against the wall. The father had then died on the spot. The elder brother heard the news of his father's death and immediately ran home. After he had buried his father, he gathered the villagers and went to find the officials who had killed his father. He took his revenge by hanging their corpses at the village gate. Seeing this, the quick-wit younger brother proposed that they might as well band together and revolt, since that seemed to be the only way to survive. And so, as the hatred for the local officials increased, more and more people had come to join their cause. Because the elder brother was powerful and the younger brother was persuasive, the villagers had unanimously established them as their leaders. When they heard that someone named Xiu Ling was requesting an audience, the brothers looked at each other in befuddlement. Even among the flow of people wanting to join their cause, only a handful had wanted to meet them. Furthermore, with the news that the third prince had been sent to subjugate the rebellion, they couldn't help but raise their guard. ******. The younger brother considered briefly and said, "Let him in. There's only one of him, we don't have anything to fear." Xiu Ling led his horse along as he followed the guide into Kanyang County's courthouse, which the two brothers had taken over. He entered the hall and saw two young men in their 20s sitting next to each other. One with a strong and frightening appearance and the other rather delicate and mellow. They must be the pair of siblings leading the rebellion. Xiu Ling stepped forward and introduced himself. "I am Yan Zhou's lieutenant, Xiu Ling." Greetings to the two leaders. Once the younger brother heard his words, he looked at him with surprise and panic. "Yan Zhou? You're under the Northern Warlord's command?" Xiu Ling nodded. "That is correct. The general has sent me to discuss matters of great importance with you both, if you would hear me out." The elder brother was uneducated, but the Northern Warlord's reputation was not alien to him, the god of war who could not be defeated by any means. He tried to put on an expression of indifference, but he couldn't help turning to look at his younger brother. The younger brother coughed lightly and sent the guard away. He then led Xiu Ling to the study. After knowing Xiu Ling's identity, the brothers were much more respectful. Although Xiao Zhiga had a bad reputation, many people in the northern parts looked up to him for his years of effort in driving away the Baidi people and keeping them safe. During their talk, Xiu Ling checked them out and believed that they were not power-hungry individuals who were using the people's suffering for their own gain. And thus, he told them about the third prince's plot and Xiao Zhiga's plan for them. After listening to his words, the elder brother swore loudly but was stopped by his younger brother. As a learned person, the second brother showed a better temperament. "How do we know that what Lieutenant Xie speaks of is the truth? You do serve the court after all." Xiu Ling responded, "If you refuse to believe me, I can only have my people spread this news. By right, this should have nothing to do with Yan Zhou. However, the general could not bear to see the people of Daya die in vain, so he had sent me to warn you. Furthermore, do you two really think that the troops of this county are incapable of stomping out this poorly equipped army?" Xiu Ling's words were hard to hear. The elder brother was disgruntled, but the younger brother was not perturbed. This was an issue he had been worrying about since the beginning. General Shen Tu Su is benevolent and cares for his troops. He did not want his soldiers to have to fight their own relatives, which is why he had been staying on the defensive. It was not that he dared not fight, but because he did not want to. Xie Ling continued, but when push comes to shove, if the third prince arrives and gives the order to attack, he will have no choice but to fight. When that time comes, Kanyang County will fall and countless lives will be lost. Is this what the two of you want? The younger brother contemplated and sadly, had to agree with Xie Ling. Lieutenant Xie is right. But if we agree to withdraw peacefully, how can we ensure the safety of these villagers? They are really at their wits' end, and that's why they have joined us. Xie Ling replied, if you two are willing to cooperate with us, the general will fight to ensure the safety of these people. The elder brother was swayed by Xie Ling's words. Seeing that his brother was still hesitant, he said, we brothers have no families or relatives. If we die, then so be it. However, we cannot implicate the young and old who have come under us. The younger brother agreed, we are willing to cooperate with you. Please do not break your promise. Seeing that they actually cared for their fellow men, Xie Ling was beginning to feel some respect towards them. He handed them a token and some identification prepared by Xiao Zhiga and explained, if everything goes according to plan, once you hear the rumors being spread that the third prince is planning to poison the river, seek refuge with General Shen Tu-Su under the guise of surrendering. After that, we will have made arrangements for you and your people to be transported along the borders of Shiwei heading to Liangzhou, where you will enter as immigrants. By the time Xie Ling had finished relaying the plan, the sky had turned dark. The third prince could arrive at any time. It was best that he did not stay in Suzhou any longer. He quickly sent a letter to Xiao Zhiga and left in the cover of night. When the third prince arrogantly brought his troops to Suzhou, Shen Tu-Su personally brought his men to welcome him. The third prince greeted him with a kind expression and friendly attitude. Having seen his courtesy, Shen Tu-Su did not want to believe that he was capable of coming up with the idea to poison the river. He led the third prince's group into the manor and held a brief meeting. The third prince sat in the seat of honor sipping his tea while the people in the room took turns to voice their opinions. After everyone had spoken, the third prince calmly interjected, your ideas are not bad, but I have a better way to solve this. Shen Tu-Su heard this and felt a sense of dread. He listened in consternation as the third prince spoke with a straight face about killing thousands with poison. The other generals looked unsure, but none were ready to refute. Shen Tu-Su clenched his fists. After a short hesitation, he stood up and said, your Highness's strategy is indeed clever, however. The third prince raised his brows and beckoned for him to continue. The day before, there was a Taoist priest in the rebels' army who foretold that your Highness will be using this strategy. By now, not only the rebels but almost everyone in Suzhou is aware of this. If we insist on carrying out this plan, I'm afraid they'd already found ways to counter. That's impossible. The third prince glared at him. He then narrowed his eyes and put on a misgiving expression. Other than Father and Master Liao, he did not disclose this to anyone else. How could this information be possibly leaked? Shen Tu-Su continued to persuade, this has spread to all corners of the city. You can even ask the children and they will tell you. The third prince had now lost his composure. He sat back and declared, if you can't poison them, then simply take them by force. It's only a bunch of villagers and nothing to be afraid of. This, Shen Tu-Su hesitated and said, but the two leaders of the common man's army heard of your Highness's deployment and have already fled. Last night, someone from their camp came to announce their surrender. The third prince was speechless. The third prince gritted his teeth and snapped at Shen Tu-Su, anything else? Why don't you just say it all at once? This time, Shen Tu-Su answered with speed, I have nothing else to report. The third prince gnashed his teeth in anger. His plan to poison them couldn't be carried out, and now, he couldn't even attack them if he wanted to. He lashed out, I'll write back to seek Imperial Father's advice. Since they dared to revolt, even if they surrender, We can't let them off this easily. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Yanzhou. After Xia Ling rushed back to Yanzhou, he immediately went to the general's manor to report to Xiao Zhiga. Xiao Zhiga heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing the news and smiled. Next is all up to Minister Li's abilities. Xia Ling thought of the last step in the plan and couldn't help but feel happy. The general is truly brilliant. If those people can arrive in Yanzhou safely, things couldn't be even more perfect. Yanzhou had always had a sparse population with all the death tolls due to the years of war. If Xiao Zhiga's plan was carried out smoothly, the rebels who had no place to go could help to repopulate the city. Let's wait for the response from Yejing. It shouldn't be long. Xiao Zhiga looked at Xia Ling's sooty appearance and said, "Go back and rest up. I have to tell Wang Fei the news, he's been worried about this for several days now." Xia Ling understood that that was his cue to leave. He saluted and left promptly. Xiao Zhiga went off to find An Changqing. In the past few days, An Changqing had not been sleeping well. An Fu had tried to help him sleep by cooking soup to promote sleep, but An Changqing had vomited it out after taking just a small sip. Hu Shifei was asked to take his pulse but found that nothing was wrong. To be able for him to get some sleep, Xiao Zhiga had to soothe him until late into the night. When Xiao Zhiga found him, An Changqing was reading under a pavilion in the courtyard. Since he was neither able to sleep at night nor at day, An Changqing went through the books he had read before to find if there was anything that could be useful to Xiao Zhiga. Reading again. Xiao Zhiga sat down beside him and filled up the teacup on the table. An Changqing let out an N. Although he was looking slightly pale, he pointed in high spirit to Xiao Zhiga a paragraph in the book he was reading. "I was about to go find you. Wang Ye, have a look at this." Xiao Zhiga took over the book from An Changqing and found that it was an exploration journal. The part An Changqing was pointing out was an interesting story that the author had happened to witness. "One day, I met a street performer who placed serpentine and stones into a bamboo tube and was able to shoot it 5 steps away. He repeated the act but accidentally added too much serpentine. It ended up injuring many passers-by and he was arrested." When An Changqing read this before, he only felt amusement. Now that he read it again, he found that it held great prospects. If a little serpentine in a small bamboo tube could easily hurt people, then what about a larger quantity of serpentine and the stones changed to something else? Couldn't they create a weapon which could help them defend the city? It's just that An Changqing was not familiar with weaponry, so he sought Xiao Zhiga to have a look. Xiao Zhiga mulled over this passage for a long time. He laughed suddenly and grabbed An Changqing's hand. "No is really my lucky star." An Changqing was a little embarrassed. He pulled away his hand, took back the book and pretended to flip through it. "What nonsense are you talking about again?" Xiao Zhiga shook his head and spoke in earnest. "No doesn't know this, but according to some of the Grand Ancestors' records, there were several mentions of weapons made of serpentine. Unfortunately, the Grand Ancestor had not managed to develop it during his reign and the subsequent emperors had failed to inherit his insight." Now that An Changqing was able to discover this, Xiao Zhiga believed it would warrant great results. If successful, Yanzhou would gain a formidable weapon. Not expecting that he was of some help, An Changqing's face lit up with excitement. "Really?" Xiao Zhiga nodded. "Tomorrow I will gather the military's craftsmen and have them prepare the experiments." After speaking, Xiao Zhiga was pleased to report to An Changqing, "There's another good news. The poisoning incident has been resolved. If everything goes according to plan, the 10,000 rebels from Suzhou will be sent to Yanzhou." Xiao Zhiga rubbed An Changqing's head and comforted him in a warm voice. No can sleep in peace now." An Changqing muttered in refute, "It wasn't entirely because I was worried about this. I simply can't fall asleep." Xiao Zhiga did not want to disagree with him and sensibly dropped the topic. He whispered softly to An Changqing, "It's all right. Hu Shifei has concocted a special lubricant. I'm sure I'll be able to help no sleep well tonight. And Changqing glared at him with red ears and silently scolded this rascal in his heart. End chapter. The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 63. Drink Soup for Nourishment. After the third prince's report had reached Yejing, a heated debate erupted in court on how to deal with the surrendered rebels. Most courtiers felt that joining an uprising was a serious crime and had to be severely dealt with to discourage future attempts. Emperor Qing was in concurrence, but how to deal with them was the problem. The number of rebels were too large to have them executed, and their crimes were not serious enough to warrant a death sentence. On the other hand, to lock them up would require expending resources, and they lacked a prison large enough to do so. The court seemed like a wet market as the officers presented their bids regarding how to deal with the situation. As Emperor Qing was starting to get impatient when Imperial Censor-in-Chief Lian Ming came forward with his solution. Firstly, the leaders of the common man's army couldn't be spared. Although they had escaped, the court should still issue an arrest warrant for them. Secondly, the people who had joined the rebellion were simply misled by persuasion. Moreover, as far as the law went, punishing the majority was out of the question. Even if the court wanted to make an example out of this rebellion to ward off future dissension, they would not have to enforce severe punishments on the commoners. Emperor Qing was getting a headache. Then what does Minister Li suggest we do? Answering Your Majesty, why don't we exile these rebels to guard the border? Minister Li went on to elaborate and justify his plan. Yanzhou is the closest to Suzhou. It has a huge territory and was heavily armed with troops. If we send the rebels there, they will not dare to make trouble. And to serve as a warning, the rebels will be punished to reclaim land at the border. To be exiled for committing the serious crime of rebelling was considered a light punishment. However, to appease the public and demonstrate his benevolence, Emperor Qing agreed that this method was reasonable. He ordered for the decree to be drafted and sent them to Suzhou and Yanzhou at once. The third prince currently residing in Suzhou was disappointed upon receiving this news. He and Master Liao had collaborated to create this opportunity to earn merits, but everything had been resolved by the time he got to Suzhou. No matter how biased Emperor Qing was, he still couldn't give him too much credit for this. He cast a cold glance at Shen Tusu and said, "Since this matter is over, General Tusu can arrange for these rebels to be escorted to Yanzhou. I'll be heading back to Yejing first." By now, Shen Tusu had been somewhat perturbed by him. He bowed respectfully and heaved a sigh of relief as he watched him leave. The decree only reached Yanzhou after the third prince had departed for Yejing. Hearing that almost 10,000 people would be joining Yanzhou, the lieutenants were simply overjoyed. They couldn't believe that Yejing would actually send these rebels to them. Yanzhou covered a large area, but over the years, families were dying out due to the war with Baidi. This had left many houses vacant and uninhabited, perfectly suitable for the thousands of exiles to live in. The lieutenants had delegated for the arrangements to be made, with An Changqing supervising. Xiao Zhiga had always wanted to expand Yanzhou since the time he was appointed as its general. However, there was never enough manpower as all available hands were focused on the war efforts. Now that there were more people and the war was won, there were many ideas he planned to put forward. In addition to building the outer city walls, he had plans to cultivate a large area of land within the city for growing crops. But how to cultivate the land, distribute the work, irrigate the field, tax implementations, all these would require careful planning and development step by step. The associate officials advised him to follow the long-established charter used by the nearby provinces, but Xiao Zhiga was not happy with it. Instead, a conversation he had had with An Changqing in the manor had inspired him a lot. An Changqing had suggested to him, rather than ordering the people to cultivate the land, it's better to let them take the initiative. The people who are arriving in Yanzhou would need a means to support their family, but they do not own a land. The existing fields in Yanzhou are not enough to provide work for all of them. As such, we can encourage them to cultivate their own land. Each household will register a portion of land to cultivate, and it has to be done by the 10th month. Whatever that they had managed to cultivate would be theirs to use for 2 next years with tax exemption. That way, the people would be much more motivated to work in comparison to being forced to do so. Xiao Zhiga believed that Changqing's plan had great potential. However, none of his underlings were suitable to handle this matter, and hence, he decided that Changqing should be the one to actualize this project. Changqing was a little hesitant at first. After all, he had not been in charge of anything significant in his 2 lifetimes. Although he had a bellyful of knowledge, it was all just texts that he had read. Now that he had to put it into action, Changqing was concerned about failure, but at the same time, he was also filled with passion and eagerness to see it come to fruition. After all, every man would want to make a name for himself. Before marrying Xiao Zhiga, he had wanted to have an official position, not for money or fame, but simply to accomplish something meaningful. Xiao Zhiga was not at all worried. He told him to draft out the charter, then have the relevant officers review and discuss it. After considering it from all sides, they could then officially enact this legislation. Changqing was reassured by Xiao Zhiga's encouragement. He dug up Yanzhou's records from earlier years to research, and after integrating some of his own ideas in it, he carefully drafted a detailed charter. In no time, Changqing was a lot busier than Xiao Zhiga. The study was often occupied by him from sunrise till late into the evening. At first, Xiao Zhiga only wanted to help Changqing take his mind off, as he had not been in a good mood lately. Unexpectedly, Changqing had really put his heart into this project. Each legislation was drafted to benefit the livelihood of the people. His dedication and thoughtfulness made Xiao Zhiga both surprised and proud. Ever since he came to deliver the rations and contributed to defending Yanzhou, Xiao Zhiga had already known that Changqing was not weak. Under the delicate and beautiful visage was a body of steel and a heart of gold. It was only because he had stayed silent that no one had realized these precious traits. Xiao Zhiga was the only one to notice. He partly wanted to keep him hidden, but seeing the excitement in his eyes, he also wanted to show off Changqing's admirable qualities to everyone. Changqing spent half a month drafting the legislation, and by the 6th month, he had almost everything ready. He was about to look for Xiao Zhiga to show him the draft and ask for his opinion on several small details that he was unsure of. By now, the guards at the city hall were already familiar with him. They bowed and let him enter without questions. Shen Tusu was currently escorting the 10,000 exiles to Yanzhou and would arrive soon. Xiao Zhiga was discussing the details of settling them in. Although it was favorable to increase the population, proper planning in advance was imperative to help them settle in easily. When Changqing arrived, Xiao Zhiga was still in discussion. He planned to wait outside but was invited to join. The officials in the room saw Changqing come in and gave Xiao Zhiga a baffled look. These officers were not of Xiao Zhiga's inner circle, so it was inevitable that they had some misgivings with Changqing's presence during an official meeting. Xiao Zhiga paid no heed. He beckoned Changqing to sit next to him and said, "Wang Fei has been drafting the land legislation I mentioned a few days ago. Everyone, please take a look." He then looked at Changqing and gave him a soothing smile. Changqing was able to gain confidence under his support. He was, after all, the Wang Fei of the northern warlord. He shouldn't let them look down on him by being timid. He put on a serious expression and began presenting his ideas. The group of officials listened to him speak and had an inexplicable feeling that Wang Fei had an air that bore resemblance to that of the northern warlord. To draft this document, Changqing had done extensive research using old records and literature. He combined ideas from different sources and integrated them with his own insights. Not only did he tackle the current issue of land reformation but also the development of this land for the future. Everything was detailed and well thought out. The officials who were initially skeptical of his involvement were put to shame after learning about his draft. The draft was finally handed over to Xiao Zhiga. By now, Xiao Zhiga was already familiar with this draft but still carefully read it over. He then asked, "Does anyone want to change any part of this draft?" The officials looked at each other but did not speak up. After some time, it was a senior official who took the lead in stating their views on the matter. However, their tone was of utmost respect towards An Changqing. An Changqing was delighted but did not show it on his face. He patiently discussed it over with the officials in order to improve and polish the draft. Eventually, the officials opened up to him and compared to the northern warlord who was taciturn and strict, they preferred to work with the amiable and good-tempered Wang Fei. By the time they were able to finalize the documents, night had fallen. Before leaving, an elderly official who was very content with An Changqing grabbed him and said excitedly, "When will Wang Fei come for the next meeting? There are still many issues that we don't know how to deal with. We would like to ask Wang Fei to give us some advice." And Changqing was still unsure how to respond when Xiao Zhiga freed his hand from the elderly official and grumbled, "There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. You should go back and rest for now." The elderly official happily complied and bid them farewell. After the officials had left, and Changqing's shoulders relaxed. He couldn't hide the joy in his eyes and said to Xiao Zhiga, "I didn't embarrass Wang Ye just now, did I?" Xiao Zhiga held his hand and smiled as he said, "Thanks to you, those old men are willing to give me some face." The civil officials were all stubborn and Xiao Zhiga was also not a patient individual. Whenever there was a disagreement between them, Xiao Zhiga would always win thanks to his position and notorious temper. These officials felt that were not being given a choice but being forced to agree with him. Today, with An Changqing leading the discussion, even though there were diverging opinions, he had eloquently defended his position and had a patient discourse with them to find a common ground. And so, the atmosphere in the conference hall was as harmonious as it had never been before. Why doesn't No help me to handle these officials in the future? Xiao Zhiga shook his head and complained, "Dealing with them is quite frustrating and laborious." The officials in Yanzhou were all diligent but hard-headed, unlike those from Yejing. They were fearless and preferred long-winding discussions. For Xiao Zhiga, who came from a military background, debating with them was a vexing task. At times, he had wished he could get through to them with his fists instead. If Qi Wei dared to oppose that way, he would have long received a kick from him. And Changqing laughed and said, "It can't be that difficult." Xiao Zhiga nodded, "So, it's decided then." And Changqing smiled as he thought to himself. He understood that Xiao Zhiga was trying to get him involved with the development of Yanzhou, and since he did not dislike this job either, and Changqing decided not to be coy and accepted the task. Seeing that he had agreed, Xiao Zhiga changed the focus to his health. "You've been busy these few days. It's good that you're able to sleep well at night, but why do I find that you're getting thinner? How's that possible?" And Changqing touched his face and said, "Lately, my appetite is really good. I think I should be putting on weight instead." Xiao Zhiga said with certainty, "You do look thinner. Eat more later for dinner, I'll get the kitchen to add tonic soup to your meal." And Changqing stared at him and thought, who is it that should drink tonic soup instead? However, he kept it to himself or else he would suffer in the bedroom tonight. As such, he only responded, "All right, let's drink it together." End chapter.